Okay, so we should now be recording. Today I have Amelia McPherson. She is a sixth grade ELAR teacher, and we are going to be talking about some of her testing data. She is a first year teacher, and I'm also her mentor. So we're going to use this time to also kind of make sure that she is up to date on what she needs to know when it comes to testing and making sure she is interpreting her data correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up your MAP scores. Since we weren't able to pull up your benchmark scores, that's okay because we take our MAP 3 times a year. And so I'm going to share that screen really quick. Let's see here. All right. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, like I said, we do MAP 3 times a year, and did you do benchmarks 3 times or 2 times this year?
2 times.
2 times this year. Okay. And so have you found when you're looking at your data between your MAP scores and your benchmark scores, do you find that those are pretty well aligned when it comes to like student progress? Yeah.
For the most part, I did notice on the benchmark, the CSA, they did a lot better on that one than they did on MAP and the STAR interim. That's the
And
only thing I noticed. Like
what do you think that is?
I don't, maybe just the wording of the questions is worded differently on like the types of different questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be where the change is.
Okay. And do you feel like which one is mostly aligned with what you think would be on the STAR? Do you think that would be like the CSA or these MAP?
Probably MAP.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I'm not going to go through all of your data right here.
Mhm.
But looking at this overall, what's an area of pride that you have when it comes to your data? Like maybe starting from the beginning of the year to where you're at right now.
Um, I've definitely seen a lot of growth and like specifically my um I guess celebration would be more towards the CSA data because it went from like do not meets and approaching being majority of the percentage,
Mm-hmm.
complete like opposite. It was most people were meets and masters, which was like a huge turnaround.
That's awesome. How many students do you have total in all your classes? Do you know?
I just got a couple of new kids, so I can check really quick. Sorry, give me one
It's
second.
okay.
I have 121 right now.
Okay. All right. So, so what are some of the RTI needs that you see the most? Like when you're looking at your overall testing data, like what are some areas of need that you're probably going to really want to hone on before, probably within these next couple weeks before STAR?
Um, are you asking like what TEKS?
Um, Let me see here. Yeah, kind of like what are some specific areas that you think will probably need to be a little more focused on, like some areas, like some different teaks?
I think probably author's purpose in craft. I think I want to kind of reteach that in a way, in a different way, maybe. And then also just inferencing in general and
Okay.
text evidence.
Mm-hmm. What are some specific actions in your lesson plans that you will do for students who are not meeting their expected growth?
I think probably what I would do is small groups I want to start integrating, like maybe one or two, and just
Mhm.
pulling them aside and having more one-on-one scaffolding with different strategies to get them to move up and to grow.
Have you been able to do much small group this year?
I haven't. I really haven't, and it's something I really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just need to figure out how it would work and kind of have a better plan for it
Mm-hmm.
um before I try it. So I think I'm gonna like try to find some more strategies on how to do it and like how to make it the most effective. Um, not just for the kids that I pull out in the small group, but like everyone else. Like, what is everyone else going to be doing? So I want to make
Right.
sure I understand like how to do it in the best way.
Something that I am going to be starting in the fall is because one of the areas I found that I feel like our campus lacks is really new teacher support. And so I've spoken with both the principal, both Mr. Bush and Mr. Garcia, and we're going to do like a new teacher boot camp. And one of the areas that like meet at least once a month about like within the first 3 weeks of school starting. And I really would like anybody that was brand new this year to also participate. Um, talk really about not only just classroom management, but one of the things that they want us to do is they want us to pull small groups and they want us to discuss data with students. And so what does that look like? How can we incorporate that into our classes? And so bringing in these experts that might know a little bit more about this and having like for each thing that we're covering, each topic that we're covering, have somebody that really understands that come in and teach that to you guys. Because I'm not necessarily like an expert in Canvas or really your gradebook since I don't use that. But somebody that does really well on that come in that particular month and work with you guys. And so I do think that working on not only interpreting data, but looking at how can I increase scores by like small group.
Yeah.
One area that we do need to cover next year better, especially with our new teachers.
Mm-hmm. I think that'd be really great.
Let's see here. So what about students that do have that high achievement, but they're still not making, like they do have the high achievement, but they're not making that expected growth. What are
Mm-hmm.
what are you planning on? What is something you would want to do with those students?
I think just figuring out where exactly they're not understanding
Mm-hmm.
and target that specific area. Because if it's one thing they're not understanding and that's what's keeping them from understanding like majority of the concept, then that's what
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to tackle first.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you're having your students keep track of their own data or their own, not really their, but really their own progress?
Right. So I have done it to where I write on a sticky note their
Mm-hmm.
score and they take it to their desk and then they know if they at the end of the test they can tell if they have grown or if they
Mm-hmm.
met their goal. Um, I did that before, and I want to do something more like a chart next year that
Mm-hmm.
they can fill out with their scores for different tests, like the CSA, STAR, and MAP, so they can see their growth on all three of those tests.
Like that. What are some of the ways that you are differentiating for student learning needs?
Just maybe asking higher level questions to someone who needs that push to think deeper, and then just really just changing the way that I approach teaching, depending on like which class I'm in, because certain classes I have like really, really high kids. And
Mm-hmm.
if another class has like mostly low kids, I'll kind of make changes and teach it a different way, maybe use more visuals, more interaction.
Mhm.
and more engagement.
One thing you can use, we have our our Text Quest resources on, there's going to be at their class link in the library apps. One thing that they do, the different apps there, you can actually differentiate, like if you have them reading a passage or something like that, you can go in and you can change them
Yeah,
for like what grade level you want, or you can extend the lesson, or have it higher level or bring it lower level, but then they can kind of be on the same page as far as like, we're all reading this passage, we're all answering
right,
questions, but it might only hit like 2 TEKS as opposed to 4 or 5. And
right.
that way, I know that's a really great resource to use whenever you're, especially in ELAR, when you're wanting to differentiate and you're having them like read something. And it's a great way that, because once you've started looking at data and understanding really where these students fit, you can be like, oh, well, I'm not going to want them to be necessarily at a 6th grade reading level when it comes to this passage, because after testing them, they're only in the 3rd grade. So, and also it would really depend on if the student had like a 504, an IEP, depending on where they're at. And it might need to be that you need to go ahead and work with like the SPED team and ask them really like, what level is the student need to be at
Right.
when it comes to reading. But
Mhm.
using those TextQuest resources is a great tool when you're wanting to differentiate, but you're wanting them to kind of be on the same page,
Right.
all reading this passage.
I've never even heard of that. So that sounds like something I would
I'll show that to you here. I can show that to you here later this week.
awesome. That would be amazing. I know I use Common Lit and
Yeah.
I know that is kind of similar and maybe not to that
Mm-hmm.
level, but I can
Yeah.
assign certain students like an 8th grade reading assignment if they're there. And then one I can start with like 4th, 5th, 6th, and I can like kind of differentiate in that way as well, which I do all the time. I use that
Right.
resource a lot.
It's good. Um, what is your goal for students making expected growth with spring testing?
For those students that did meet expected growth
Yeah.
on spring testing, what's my goal with uh
Just really that they show progress,
yeah, just
probably.
continuing to show progress
Right.
as we, prepare for the next school year.
Mm-hmm.
So to start maybe looking ahead at the 7th grade TEKS and just start incorporating concepts like that into their lessons just to kind of bridge the gap.
Mm-hmm. What are some specific RTI needs that you see in your classroom?
Um, I don't understand the question.
That's okay. So like with specific students with low growth and low achievement, what are some specific needs that you see like for your kids? Like, oh, I see like this child is going to need extended time, or this one needs to like, I'm trying to think, not only extended time, but maybe they need work that's a little bit lower, like like SIL or something like that.
Yeah, no, my kids that are really low, it's mostly just reading. They struggle
Mm-hmm.
with decoding. If they
Mm-hmm.
don't know a word, they just skip over it or just guess, and they're
Yeah.
not trying to decode. So that's definitely something I need to work with them on, because they're not even trying, they're just skipping it.
Right. How do you when you're having them, do you ever have students read to you, like when you sit with them?
Yeah.
And so when they are skipping over those words, what do you have them do? You have them go back, or do you?
Do.
Mm-hmm.
I have them go back and I say, well, hold on, let's see if we can figure out what that word says.
Right.
And read it each letter at a time. And then they even when they do that, they still kind of rush through it. I'm like, slow down. So we just kind of take it letter by letter and
Mm-hmm.
eventually they'll get the word.
Do you feel like the majority of your students struggle mostly with like comprehension or the decoding? What do you see there?
Majority. Um, I think decoding is probably the bigger issue.
Mhm.
I think I think that causes the comprehension to be lower. So I
Mhm.
think if the decoding, if they could read the words, I think they would understand it more.
Right.
So I think they kind of go hand in hand. But I
Eh,
think decoding is more of like the root issue.
right. Um, I want to look at your map scores right now. I'm pretty sure that this is spring. Yes, this is spring. So this is the test that you guys just took this past week, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like a week ago.
Hmm.
So we have I don't know if I'm able to pull up where that has all three on there. So when you're over here, is this one class? Yeah, this is just like your first period class right here that we're looking at. So when we're looking at this, and we're looking at low, you have total 24 students in this class. You have 6 that would count in the low, 4 low average, 4 average, 6 high average, and 4 high. So really it looks like you would have really about 10 out of that class that would fall into the low average. Are your classes, are they on level or are they advanced?
They're on level.
They're on level. So all of
Mhm.
them. Okay. Would this, let's see here, the areas that we're looking at. Looking at this, what area looks like probably had the most multiple genres? And
Multiple
that one,
genres.
yeah, that
Yeah.
one can be kind of hard to understand and know.
Yes. Also, we just kind of got into that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like we haven't really learned about it in its full
Right.
yet. So I think that's a part of that as well. And then also
Mm.
the just vocabulary I can see is low as well,
Right.
which I think also kind of goes hand in hand with the issue with decoding.
Mm-hmm. Is this, let's see here. There's not really any, when we're looking across the board here, there's probably not any surprises when you see these names
Yeah, no.
there, you know. And looking at this, I wonder if you looked at which kids fall into, like ESL, or they fall under some umbrella of being SPED, because I know I do see some students here that would qualify for SPED on
Yes,
here.
there
One
are
of them.
actually
Mhm.
have several ESL students in that class.
Right. Yes. No. Yeah, that there's not really any super major surprises there.
Right.
No. Yeah. Oh, you only had 15 kids in that class. That's nice. Or
Well,
only 15 that tested that day.
yeah.
Like not everybody tested at the same time. You know that. Yeah, that's the majority of them fell into the average to the high. Just good.
Mhm.
Let's see.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I just saw a bug.
Oh no. It's kind of warm outside.
I know there's so many like of those house flies are keep getting
Mhm.
in. It's driving me crazy.
Here. God. It looks like there's not that many in each class that are really in the
Right.
low category. And so what we were talking about earlier is the kids you really want to look at are going to be your average, your low average kids, because those are going to be your bubble kids. And those are going to be the ones, especially this low average right here. And those are
Yeah.
going to be your bubble kids. And those are going to be the ones that you're going to want to focus on the most here in the next couple of weeks, because
Mhm.
they're the ones that you're going to be able to push over
Right.
into the passing,
Yeah.
passing. So those would be the students that you're really going to want to look at, who are these 6 kids or whatever in each class.
Mhm.
Like I forgot, I'm at school. The bell's ringing, nobody's here. So that would probably be what I would do, is make a list of those in each class and really be focusing a lot of your attention on those students, especially when it comes to pulling small groups.
Yes, definitely.
Looks like, yeah. And that's where like you're even really your average, because unfortunately they could be the ones that could go either way. They
Right.
might be having an off day that day. And those guys you're going to really want to make sure that they are feeling really confident
Yeah, definitely.
when it comes to testing.
Mhm.
Good. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry we weren't able to bring up your map or your benchmark scores, but that's okay. Just because as a district, we really look at map scores a lot too, because those are going to be the ones we use. Map data, I know, to build those, like the tutoring classes and the intervention classes too. So
Right.
these are important too. And but for some reason, I feel like some of the students don't take this test as seriously.
Yeah, I've noticed
Um,
that.
And so I try to remind them, remember that if you are in an intervention class and you don't want to be in an intervention class, you really need to be serious when it comes to MAP, because that's what the district is going to look at when they're building those classes, is the
Mhm.
MAP data.
Exactly.
Very good. Let's see here. So is there anything you would like to tell me about your students' growth this year?
I think just the CSA scores being so high, I was really hoping to show you those, but I can show you those,
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
those in person also.
Yeah. But that's really it. It was good to see that there was a lot of growth, and I look
Mhm.
forward to, seeing that growth get even better.
Right. And this being your first year, you're intaking a lot of information. And
Yeah.
so one of the best things to do is reflect on what worked, what didn't, what are some ways that we can improve as the years go on. And I mean,
Exactly.
you've done a great job as a first year teacher. You've really done a great job this year. And I know you've had a great help from your team,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's a lot of experience there. And so
Mm.
you've been really lucky in that regard to have a team that's been so supportive and has so many
Oh my
years
God.
of teaching under their belt. So
They
you're
are
lucky to have many.
amazing.
And
Oh, yeah. I
yeah,
feel very lucky to be on that
yeah.
team.
What are some goals that you have for yourself moving forward when it comes to student progress?
I think my main one is having them be more involved in seeing their growth and seeing their scores, because I think they forget when I tell them straight away, they'll forget. So I think having something where they can look at it and have a goal written down that they can aim for, in a more organized fashion rather than like a sticky note, like a chart.
Right.
I think that would be really helpful. I know Miss Minnie has one that she uses that I think I would really think my kids would really benefit from having something like that to refer to.
Mhm. I know it's hard when you have just so many students
Yeah.
to like keep, 120 binders
Mhm.
of all of their stuff. But I really like the idea of having that chart that's there, and you can still use those sticky notes and throw them on there
True.
before, you get, when you're taking notes or whatever with your students, and you can go back and fill that
Like,
in.
yeah.
I think having a visual of their progress is so important for students. And because when they look at their goal and they can map it out. And something I also did, and I don't know if you do this, you can print out, and I know that the only thing is it's a lot of paper, print out their map scores or just their progress, just their individual progress, and keep that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're a lot more digital now. We don't have to
Yeah.
kill a bunch of trees that way if we don't want to, but even just sitting down and showing them.
Yeah. And I've done that as well, but
Mhm.
I'd like to have it more organized. And I
Right.
think the visual itself, and I think be really helpful.
And I know a lot of teachers are really great at telling them your goal is this.
Yeah.
You know, your next goal is this. And
Mhm.
I'm sure you are too. And then that way they know, like, all right, I need to pay attention. I need to be better in this particular TEK or whatever. And
Right.
so then they're a little more taking a little more charge of their own learning that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you can even, you know, and I know this is your first year, but one of the things you can even do is if everybody reaches their goal, if whoever reaches their goal, have some sort of party incentive, not that you have to give an incentive for everything, but sometimes having a little celebration saying, hey, everybody reached their goal, or who, you know, and it would be that way. If even sometimes just making progress, even moving up
Right.
points is a goal, you
Yeah.
know. And so finding a way to celebrate their accomplishments.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to throw a pizza party for everything, but
Yeah.
you know, something, a little something
Yeah.
would be good. And that might be something that I talk to admin about. Like, I don't know, middle school doesn't do a lot in the way of celebrations for stuff. And I get it too, because you don't want them to be so freaked out about testing.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you also want them to take it seriously, or maybe
Right.
be some sort of incentive at the end. I don't know. It's kind of hard to know which way to go on that.
It
Like,
is.
I don't want to reward you for everything, but sometimes you're like, they've worked so hard that you want to
They should
reward
be.
that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
definitely. I think they should be rewarded for when they truly have like worked really hard.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which I know they have. Well, do
Mhm.
you have anything else you want to tell me about this year, or just
I
testing? I know we
think
only have what, a
so.
couple more weeks left until it's
Yeah.
testing. Very exciting stuff. I don't miss that. I don't miss having to sit there and worry about the testing.
I know, I've been stressing about it.
And that's one thing that I think is as long as you know that you've covered everything you need to cover,
Exactly.
and really focusing on those bubble kids, because that's
Yes.
where you're going to get your best bang for the buck at this point.
Right.
Um, and then just kind of let it go, because, you know, at the end of the day, you've done what you can do,
Yeah.
and you can just hope that they all have a really clear mind that day.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's easy to say hindsight, oh, don't worry about it. But because you're going to worry about it. It's just the nature of the beast. But really, making sure you've covered the TEKs that you need to cover, focusing on those bubble kids, and then just kind of pumping them up
Yeah.
and being
Exactly.
like, you've got this, we've covered this, there's not going to be any surprises. You know,
Right.
and I think that's a big
Confident.
one. It's like
Yeah.
they're not going to trick you. We've already
Yeah.
gone over all this. There's not going to be anything brand new that pops out of the woodwork that you're gonna be like, what is this?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so well, I'm sure they will do great. I know
Mhm.
this has been kind of nerve-wracking getting there. And
Yeah.
especially first year teaching, and teaching a tested subject is always hard.
Mhm.
There's just always a lot riding on the line there. Here, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that. There we go. All right. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me. And I will meet with you sometime later this week, and we can kind of actually look at the CSA score in
That'd be
person.
good.
All right. And so I guess that will conclude our meeting for today, but I will see you tomorrow. All right. Thank you.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.